Hey there. It is January 20th, 2016, Wednesday, and comic book day. This week will probably be two parts, each kind of long, but that's just how the books kind of do this week. So we are starting with Will Eisner's The Spirit, issue number, what are we, 8? 7. Sorry. Yes, this refuses to stay up. First book, I think, in the series so far, where the cover begins to reflect the tone of the inside of the book, um, because the spirit looks absolutely panicked here, like a little comically so. Like just the look on his face, I think, captures the tone pretty well. Even though the spirit remains pretty unflappable in this book, at least when it comes to his villains. The book opens with same thing on the cover, the mob, putting a price on the spirit's head, and it turns out that the spirit is part of the meeting the entire time, and he is shaking down the mob for information on Voss, the people who kidnapped him and held him in prison for however long it was, a pretty long time, considering everyone thought the spirit was dead. So he's shaking down the mob for Mikado Voss with his sidekicks, Strunk and White, and it turns out that Voss is a kind of Kaiser Soze type character that, sorry about that loud, whatever that was, motorcycle maybe? Anyway, turns out that Voss is a kind of Kaiser Soze type character, the type of crime boss who other crime bosses are completely in awe and fear of. After that, the spirit catches up with Ellen. After all, he's been dead for a couple years, and they catch up some more. We find out that the feelings aren't quite dead between them. Not dead at all, in fact. Meanwhile, Strunk and White go to the Port Authority in order to search the wreckage for evidence of Voss's dealings. They find some, they get a lead, and the last half of the book is the spirit following up on that lead, tracking down Voss's Central City headquarters, and then we find out that even Voss's henchmen are very afraid of Voss, afraid enough to do some pretty extreme things once they've been found out. And then the last page involves one of the previously introduced characters having a dirty little secret that'll probably come up later in the series. So I am still very much enjoying The Spirit. It's just kind of very classic, pulpy, noir. It's a detective comic, through and through. It's lighthearted enough, like children can totally pick this up. But it's smartly written, it's well done, it understands the genre that it's in, and it plays to all those strengths. So, The Spirit, issue number 7, really just continuing to love this book. Moving on to Marvel, starting with Starbrand and Nightmask, issue number 2. I really liked the first issue, really like Greg Weisman, and this issue kind of continues that trend with an opening spread here of Nightmask and Starbrand using their powers against the villains that they were facing in the last issue, and this whole book is narrated by Nightmask, so we get to see inside his head and his inner monologue about these events going on here. And part of what we see is his explanation of how the duo's powers work, and we get more insight into just how godlike these two are. At the end of the first issue, one of the villains caused a huge explosion, and to Nightmask and Starbrand, it's basically that time has stopped, and we see Starbrand breaking down the explosion chain reaction by chain reaction to completely nullify it, while Nightmask just experiences heavy time dilation, so he can see what Starbrand is doing. They then finish the fight when Nightmask warps them both, warps them, the entire villains, and both Starbrand and Nightmask to the Arctic. We find out that the villains are being controlled by a higher power because they've been speaking weird the whole time, and this doesn't make sense why they're after Starbrand and Nightmask. And we have Starbrand take care of them by getting them stuck in amber. And so, pretty exciting first battle there. But the real meat of this book is after the battle, where the duo are back in college, and Nightmask is talking to Kevin Starbrand about how he's concerned about how kind of nonchalantly Starbrand is using his powers, that he seemed to show no mercy on the villains before, and he's just concerned at Kevin's lack of concern about everything going on and the supervillains and all these things. We then get a bit more of the college stuff. Kevin's powers begin to act a little wonky, and we have a page on the planet in the Kree Empire where some developments are happening that I don't want to spoil too much, but things are getting bigger. There may or may not be more Starbrand and Nightmask duos out there, and their appearance is either a sign or a cause of something pretty big that's about to happen to Kevin and Adam. So I'm still really liking this book. I'm liking, besides just the kind of the power level that these two are operating on, and that's kind of cool on its own, seeing these two heroes that are just way overpowered, taking care of business. I really like the relationship that these two have. I like the relationship between Nightmask, who we have a brief origin story here too for Nightmask. And also a bit for Starbrand. Just a general brief little recap of how they got to where they are. And I like their rapport. How we have a Nightmask who's kind of robotic, but has a lot more humanity than Kevin, who is, on the surface a lot more human and social and things like that, but has an alarming disconcern for human life, especially villains' lives and stuff like that. And so those two just work together as a team really well. And also just seeing, again, their powers are pretty cool and on a higher scale than a lot of other comic characters. So that's pretty cool too. So still liking Starbrand and Nightmask. Next up, we have Miss Marvel. The final issue of this arc involving the gentrification stuff. At the end of the last issue, we find out that the new housing board was a front for Hydra. Captain Marvel went to investigate, and we found out that they have gotten to Bruno, and that Bruno has been mind controlled just like a lot of the other residents of Jersey City. And so we begin this issue with Miss Marvel in the Hydra base, fighting to get Bruno back. The battle seems to go in her favor for a while, and we see that she's learned to use her powers while on the Avengers to do new things, and so she shrinks very fast and she grows really fast. And the battle kind of has this sort of Ant-Man sort of vibe going on, like Ant-Man the movie, when you have Ant-Man versus the Falcon, and he kept on shrinking and to evade and then growing to land a punch and everything. So we have that sort of pace going on, and that's pretty cool to see with Miss Marvel, because it's the sort of fight we don't usually get with her. So we see that she's learning her powers a lot more. But the battle ends up going wrong, and she has to flee and doesn't get to rescue Bruno. So to save the day, she turns to Mike, Bruno's current girlfriend, and the two have to work together in order to save Bruno and save Jersey City from Hydra. They do a sciencey thing. They discover that Bruno had come up with a cure, and so now they have to find a way to make the cure and once again cure Jersey City. And then even after that is done, not everything is right because they have still done a lot of damage to Miss Marvel's PR, so we get to see how that resolves itself. I'm guessing later in the book, not in this issue, but later on in the story. It's still Captain Marvel. Like, there's not much to say otherwise, to be completely honest. It's the same tone, it's the same feeling, a lot of the same. It's pretty much Miss Marvel as we know Miss Marvel. I mean, it's cool seeing, like, the big standout, I guess, is Miss Marvel bonding with Mike. Of course, Mike doesn't know that Miss Marvel is Kamala Khan, so she gets to talk a bit more outwardly about her nervousness around Kamala than she would be otherwise to Kamala herself, which gives Miss Marvel, a bit to chew on and think about as she's going on with her friendship with Bruno and all that. There's a bit here where I feel the gentrification stuff gets a little too on the nose, like a little too outwardly evil, but that's a pretty small complaint, I guess. And otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's Miss Marvel as we know Miss Marvel. It's a fun book. Honestly, I don't know if I'm gonna continue picking it up. I mean, I do like these characters, but I don't know. Like, I'm getting Miss Marvel with my Avengers now, and I don't know. I might still pick it up, might not. It's Miss Marvel. The thing is, the book hasn't really changed. It hasn't. Like, it's still it's the same tone, it's the same mood, it's the same sort of thing we got in the first 10 issues, then we're getting in, the second 10, and then the third 10. It's just the same thing over and over and over, and it's charming, but I don't know how much there really is there. So that is Miss Marvel issue number 3. Next up, we have Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat, issue number 2, and this is probably my favorite issue of the Marvel books this week. I really enjoyed the first issue, thought it was really fun and funny, and this issue continues that, starting with a recap of everything that happened last issue, and I quite like this recap page because it actually is a comic. A lot of recap pages are just kind of like a one-paragraph summary. This actually has like pictures, and it's a comic to tell you what's going on in the comic, so pretty nifty stuff there. And then we begin where we left off with Patsy working retail, and of course, retail work is very difficult. And she hates her 17-year-old boss because, of course, that's what happens. There's just lots of funny visual gags. She's helping these two teenagers shop for kind of 90s retro clothing, which is just, relatable, I guess, because I still don't get why the 90s are retro. It doesn't feel like, the 90s are long enough ago to be retro, but I guess they are, and it's weird because I grew up in the 90s, and I don't feel that at all. What happens then? We get some stuff with Hetty. We get information on Hetty and the republishing of the Patsy Walker books from when she was a teenager, so building up some of that, just kind of conflict. And it's a cute book, so Patsy gets really angry about the whole books getting republished thing and her getting recognized and everything about that. And it's cute and stuff. And just the new character, what's his name? Ian, is just so great. Ian's just a really cool little character, and I like his dynamic with Patsy. And I like just this page, Patsy's really angry and kind of frightens him, and so he inadvertently uses his psychic powers to fling the clothes all over the place. There's just lots of nice little detail here. With in the background and the pictures of this book, with images, whatever, with Patsy and Ian and other characters reacting to things, and just little cute little things going on. Things get more complicated when there's a shoplifter using a magical purse, so there's a brief fight there. There's a great panel here where Hellcat threatens to become best friends with the shoplifter because that's how she stopped Ian in the previous issue, so that's pretty cool. And then there's some more stuff with Hetty, and at the end there is a kind of meeting, very much like on the cover. What's on the cover actually happens at the end of this book, where there's a big meeting between Patsy and all of her friends at a burger place, where they decide what to do next, essentially. I don't want to spoil everything in this book. But yeah, it's a fun, cute book. I'm really enjoying it. Lots of charm, lots of personality. Art's really fun and good, and there's lots of little background things to make you laugh in the art. So yeah, just a nice, funny book. Really just enjoying it. Switching gears now to talk about Captain Marvel #1. All new Captain Marvel reboot being written by... Who's it written by? It's written by the people behind the Agent Carter series on television. ABC, I think? Michelle Frazikis and Tara Butters. So no longer Kelly Sue working on this book. Instead, it is the people behind Agent Carter. And lots of exposition in this first issue. Lots of setting up the new status quo. So we have Captain Marvel in space with Alpha Flight, who are Earth's first line of defense from intergalactic threats. And so in this issue, we have Captain Marvel punching the shit out of a meteor headed to Earth. So that is that. And then we go back a bit and see how she got to Alpha Flight, which is the space station in orbit around Earth, very much like the Justice League Watchtower, but not. We see her meet the team, go on a tour of everything. We have Puck, who's one of the pilots and a big fan of Captain Marvel. We have Abigail Brand, who starts off as the kind of serious, all-business assistant to Captain Marvel, who has a bit greater depths, we find out later on in the book. And we find out a bit of what Alpha Flight entails, being that Captain Marvel is not the commander, she's the leader, the boss, the head honcho of Alpha Flight. She has to go to meetings, but also has the opportunity to kick ass and blow up meteors, as we see in the beginning of the book, and also here in the middle, where this all happens. Things get more complicated as we find out that the meteor might not have been a random occurrence. It might have been thrown at Earth by somebody, and then by the end of the book, things just get more and more complicated with enemy ships and mysteries and stuff like that I don't want to really get into. But, yeah, pretty good first issue. Again, lots of information, lots of new exposition setting up the status quo, and that works pretty well, I guess. It doesn't fly along, but it goes. It doesn't feel like you're dragging at any particular moment, except we're supposed to drag in the meeting where things are a little slow, on purpose, because it's a meeting and Captain Marvel is bored. What else? Something I want to bring up was the art, which I'm a bit iffy on, to be honest. I think, like, on this page, Captain Marvel's head is way too small, like, compared to the rest of her body. But something I do like is that they're making Carol very muscly. If you look at a lot of female heroes, like Wonder Woman, I guess, is the big one, but also a lot of other female heroes, they don't really look powerful, like, they're lean and they're trim and they're fit, but they're not, like, powerful. They don't have, like, the big bulging biceps and abs and everything that a lot of male heroes do. But they make Captain Marvel really muscly. They give her abs and biceps and stuff like that. Like, this is a woman who looks like she could beat you up. And I kind of like that. I like that they're really, showing that, yeah, Captain Marvel is a superhero. She is powerful. she can kick your ass. And so that's pretty cool, I think. That's a cool little detail. I'll have to give this book a few more issues to see if I'm going to really enjoy it. But again, pretty good start. Pretty cool new status quo with her being the captain of Alpha Flight and all that. And, I wish it the best. I really like Captain Marvel. I liked what I read with Kelly Sue, and I hope that this book continues taking the character, further, faster, higher, more. And is that it? Did I say that right? I hope I said that right. And the last Marvel book this week is Silver Surfer #1, still with Dan Slott and the All Reds on art, and just kind of telling a new story, new arc rather, with everything. And this book has a killer opening. So we start on Earth with Dawn Greenwood's family as they are waiting for Dawn to visit and come back to Earth with the Surfer. They sit down to watch some TV in order to maybe get some information on where the Surfer is, which is unlikely, but they happen to catch an alien invasion happening on the television. And the aliens are broadcasting all over the world when suddenly, on the alien spaceship, they are attacked just off chance by Dawn and the Silver Surfer, because Dawn wanted to use their telecommunications uplink to talk to Earth and tell her family that she will be home in 3 days. So that's just a killer opening right there. Is you think, oh no, alien invasion on Earth, and then it happens, oh, it's no big deal. This is just a way to introduce our main characters, which is pretty cool. I think. Of course, that does end up biting them in the butt when the story continues to move on. It does more than just... It's not just a cold open. It actually does tell part of the story moving forward, which is cool. But just really fun opening way to reintroduce these characters and everything going on. So we do have the Surfer and Dawn land back on Earth, where they visit Dawn's family and have a big holiday to celebrate all the holidays that Dawn missed while in space. And I just noticed, literally right now, that Dawn's father kind of looks a little bit like Dan Slott, and I wonder if that's intentional or... And it looks older than Dan Slott, but same sort of bigger guy with a beard and bald thing going on there. So maybe Mike Allred having a little fun there with that. The two and the rest of the family sit down to kind of celebrate some more when all of Earth's culture is getting stolen. We find out it is being stolen by the aliens from the beginning of the book. And they use all of these stolen culture to become that culture. And so this book ends kind of with a big fight between the Silver Surfer and all of Earth's other protagonists. So on this page we have Doctor Who, Harry Potter, who else is there? James Bond, Bruce Lee, or Uma Thurman in Kill Bill, because it's a female version. It's a female one of those aliens. Tron's in there. Yeah, I think this one is supposed to be Uma Thurman, and then this one is supposed to be Bruce Lee. So they have both, and then just a lot of other kind of characters. Willy Wonka, RoboCop. So we have Silver Surfer versus a bunch of other protagonists. But luckily it's not a straightforward fight. There is a twist to this fight that Dawn ends up figuring out that makes it a lot more interesting, in my opinion. And just, this is, again, still an incredibly fun book. Still a lot of Doctor Who influence on there. The Surfer has even begun saying, come along, Dawn, which is very much like the Doctor saying, come along, Pond, to Amy. But yeah, no, it's the same Silver Surfer book. It's still just as kind of manic and fun and colorful and everything as it has been before. Very Dr. Seussy, very Doctor Who-y, but still very comic booky by the end too. There's still, heroes and aliens and villains and stuff like that. And by the end of the book, we get hints of an even larger threat coming to the planet that the Surfer and Don will have to be on the lookout for. So if you've enjoyed Silver Surfer in the past, or at least the Dan Slott Silver Surfer in the past, this is more of that, more of the same. Just as likable, just as fun, and I am definitely going to keep on reading it. And that is it for this first part of the comic book reviews for today. Next up, we have Clean Room, issue 4, and a bunch of DC books I picked up this week. So if you're interested in those will be in the next video. But if you are not, I want to thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please rate it. Subscribe if you want to see these every week. Comments, questions, book recommendations, anything whatsoever, please leave them in the comments below and I will try and get to them. And I hope to see you for some more comic book reviews.